Now available in paperback at e-readers. Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Historical Men in Crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Historical Men in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Historical Men in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about Mohammad Shafia, who murdered his wife and 3 of his daughters in an honor killing. Now, Mohammad Shafia is infamously known for being the mastermind of a plan where he recruited his son and his second wife to murder 3 of his daughters and his first wife. And as Mohammad Shafia basically implemented this plan, he bought a Nissan Sentra for $5,000, and as he bought this Nissan Sentra for $5,000, he had his first wife and the 3 daughters who basically wanted to participate in Western culture, his 19-year-old daughter Zanib, his 17-year-old daughter Shahar, and his 13-year-old daughter Gidi get into this vehicle. And as they got into this vehicle with Mohammad Shafia's second wife, Mohammad Shafia allegedly took the Lexus he owned and wound up pushing the Nissan Sentra that the women were in into the underwater, into the Kingston Mills Lock of the Rideau Canal. Now, this vehicle was found with a broken tail light and halfway underwater, and this is where they found the bodies of all 4 of these women, Mohammad Shafia's first wife and 3 of his daughters. And soon after they found all 4 of these individuals, this is where Mohammad Shafia was basically, eventually after an investigation, arrested and charged with the murders of his wife and his daughters in an honor killing. Now, this honor killing basically was the thing that led to Mohammad Shafia winding up in prison for the rest of his life, but he was on the road to becoming a man in crisis due to the dysfunctional way he perceived his religion and his efforts to maintain a smooth world in order to maintain the honor as related to his religion. Now, Mohammad Shafia, back in 1979 or 1980, wound up marrying Rona Mohammad, and unfortunately, Rona Mohammad was completely infertile and unable to have children. However, Mohammad Shafia basically wanted to be able to participate in the traditions of his religion and be able to have a large family, and eventually what he did was take Tuba Yaha as his second wife. And as he took Tuba Yaha as his second wife, they married in 1989 in Afghanistan, and they had lots of wedding photos of him flanked with his 2 wives. And as time went on, Tuba gave birth to 7 children, and Rona wound up participating in the polygynous marriage as a sister wife. And as she participated in the polygynous marriage as a sister wife, what happened is even though the children bonded with Rona more than they did with Tuba, what that did was create a series of competition between the 2 women, and this competition between the 2 women basically was a big problem for Mohammad Shafia as related to his family, because as they saw Rona basically being, again, an infertile woman who had this freedom, this basically made things as related to building a conflict with the situation as related to Mohammad Shafia, as related to his life once he left Afghanistan in 1992. Now, Mohammad Shafia left Afghanistan in 1992 with his children and moved to Australia for a brief time. Then he moved to United Arab Emirates, where they lived for over a decade, and Mohammad Shafia saw a complete change in his fortune when he lived in Dubai, working in the used car business and then going into real estate. And by 2007, he was a multimillionaire, and as he was a multimillionaire, he wanted to go and look to build his fortunes and look to move outside of the Islamic countries to Western society, and decided to take advantage of an immigration program introduced by the government of Quebec in Canada to offer permanent residence to people and give them citizenship if they invested money in the province. And Mohammad Shafia invested $2 million in purchasing a strip mall on the outskirts of Montreal, and invested a further $200,000 in building himself a home for him and his family. And Mohammad Shafia and his second wife, Tuba, and his 7 children immigrated to Canada and settled in Montreal in 2007. And as they moved to Montreal in 2007, this is where Mohammad Shafia's smooth world, as related to his life, related to religion, became a lot rougher. Because when it comes to the people who believe in honor killings, they're not really killing as related to the honor of their religion. No, when it comes to these men, what they really want to do is maintain their smooth world, like most beta males do, and they want to maintain their smooth world where they don't have to deal with conflicts, problems, or obstacles as related to their world. And that's very easy to maintain in a country where the Islamic faith is practiced, because that's a theocratic country. However, once these men enter into Western countries, that's where they start to have friction with the women in their lives, and they start to have friction with the women in their lives, because when it comes to those countries have a completely different culture. And as those women come to those countries and get indoctrinated into Western culture, that's when these women want to start going out and resisting the principles of that religion. And that's what happened in the case of Mohammad Shafia, as related to his first wife, Rona Mohammad, who he basically sponsored for immigration, telling her that he was a cousin and that she would work as a cook and a housekeeper, basically opening up the door with that lie as related to giving that woman independence. And then also, as his daughters started to get older, they started to come into Western culture. And as they came into Western culture, they weren't looking to submit to the authority of Mohammad Shafia. No, they weren't looking to submit to his authority. What they were looking to do was go out here and receive all the benefits of Western culture. And all of the benefits of Western culture meant that they would have more freedoms than they would have in a country where they were under the Islamic theocracy. And as a result, what happened with Rona, Mohammad Shafia's first wife, is that since she was infertile and she was, again, not having any sort of tie to him, she was looking to leave the marriage that she said was loveless and abusive, because according to the culture in Afghanistan, most women basically married as related to obligation, as related to being handed to a man. And she was looking to be a part of Western culture, and again looking to try to get her husband to give her a divorce, but he wouldn't give her a divorce because that would disrupt his smooth world as related to his religion. And since it would disrupt his world as related to his religion, he didn't want to go out here and lose honor as related to his religion. So this is why he didn't want to give his wife a divorce, and this is why she feared for her life. And again, Tuba, basically being the wife who had children, wanted to leverage this as power for herself as related to the relationship. And the whole situation with her is that she wanted to maintain the power that she had as the wife who bore children for him, because that was a higher, more esteemed position, because the woman who bears children for a man, according to this religion, again, is one that is higher regard. But the wife who doesn't have children isn't seen that way, and that's why Tuba saw her as a slave, and really got off on the power of seeing this woman being under her, even though she was the first wife. And again, the first wife you would think would have the leadership ability, but the whole thing is that she basically was leveraging this and the visitor's visa as a domestic servant over her head, and wanted to use that power to be able to control this woman. Now, even what was going on top of what was happening to Rona was the children were basically in a situation where they were out here in Canada and exploring the world as related to freedom. And the eldest daughter, Zanib, was basically getting in a relationship with a Pakistani boy, and her getting into that relationship with the Pakistani boy basically made it the world of Mohammad Shafia even less smooth, because even though he was a very rich man, he didn't have that ability to be that leader that he wanted in a Western country the way he could be in an Eastern country. No, in a Western country, a lot of men don't have that same type of leadership ability. And again, when you have women who are getting indoctrinated into feminism, they're looking to go out here and live a way where they have their autonomy and independence, and not looking to follow the traditions of the religion. No, this is what angered Mohammad Shafia as related to his first daughter, and he wanted to take the life of his first daughter, all for participating in the natural rebellion that adolescents participate in, because oftentimes with adolescents, again, in their teenage years, they're exploring life and exploring boundaries that they cannot explore in Eastern culture, that they can in Western culture. And when that child starts to explore the world from the Western perspective, they don't see things like race or religion in relationships. And as Zainab got involved with this Pakistani boy, as she got involved with this Pakistani boy who basically this Mohammad Shafia thought was beneath his daughter, this is what made him very angry, and made him very angry to the point where he started to get angry at her, and also got angry at the other two adolescent daughters who also wanted boyfriends. Again, these girls basically were in Western culture for about 2 years, and as they were in Western culture for 2 years, they wanted to do the things that they saw in a lot of Western media, like going out here and dating and having boyfriends, things that go against the faith that Mohammad Shafia was a part of, things that go against that faith, because in that faith, women are completely submitted to the man. They have to participate in arranged marriages, and they're not allowed to go out here and have the more casual courtships, and they're not allowed to have the more casual courtships that Western women have, or have the autonomy and freedom that Western women have. But the daughters wanted to have those freedoms, and this is what enraged Mohammad Shafia, enraged him to the point where Mohammad Shafia basically was upset, not because his honor was being dishonored, but because his smooth world was being made rough by basic conflict that happens when you have adolescent daughters. Because when you have adolescent daughters go through phases like being boy crazy and wanting to have relationships with boys and wanting to explore relationships with boys, because this is all part of their natural development. But that natural development made life rough for Mohammad Shafia, who wanted a smooth world, and wanted that smooth world where he would have no conflicts, problems, or obstacles from his daughters, and thought that basically because he was a wealthy man, he could possibly look to be able to participate in the honor killings like he would possibly be able to do in the East with dealing with a rebellious daughter, when the actual solution for dealing with a rebellious daughter is ensuring that she gets attention and gets her emotional needs met. Because if you meet the emotional needs of a daughter, what will happen is they will still be boy crazy and have that phase, but they still will know that there's a person there who is setting boundaries and setting order, and shows them that there is a man that cares. But Mohammad Shafia didn't really care about that. All he cared about was his image, cared about his image as related to his religion, and cared about maintaining a smooth world as related to that religion. And according to that religion, again, it was all about the honor of the man. And the way the man could redeem his honor was by taking the life of the dishonorable women in his life, and taking the life of these dishonorable women. That's what he believed would make his world smooth again, as related to the God that he served. That's what he believed as related to this whole situation. And sadly, what happened with Mohammad Shafia is he went out here and he wound up buying a Nissan Sentra, and he had all 4 of the daughters basically, again, get into this Nissan Sentra, and then after this took his Lexus SUV in a parking lot, and again pushed this vehicle into the water, and pushed it into the water at the Kingston Mills locks. And this is where workers found this black Nissan Sentra with a broken left tail light submerged in the water, and 4 female bodies inside. Now, Mohammad Shafia then went to the Kingston police to report that 4 of his family members were missing, saying 3 teenage daughters and an aunt were missing, when in actuality what was happening was he had basically participated in this murder with malice aforethought, looked to participate in this murder with malice aforethought, calling it an honor killing, but participating in dishonorable things like lying, dishonorable things like lying to the police, dishonorable things that he looked to do as related to maintaining his honor, ironically, when the most honorable thing that this man could have just done as related to things was basically let these women go about their business, because if she decides to just go her own way, that's not on you at that point. And again, giving that woman a divorce would basically lead to her basically winding up in a situation where it's all on her. And when it came to the daughters, just basically just disown the daughters, that would have been a better situation as related to things. That would have been a better situation, but this man wanted to maintain his smooth world, and as he and his second wife looked to maintain this smooth world, they recruited their son into this so-called honor killing, an honor killing that basically showed how dishonorable this man was as related to his need to maintain a smooth world. And really what's here is not anything about religion or God, because again, a man who serves God basically, again, would want to follow the principle of not looking to murder someone and look to love someone as they would love themselves. And part of loving someone is letting people go. Again, if people want to go, you just let them go, not look to try to maintain power as related to maintaining this idealized image of yourself. And that's where Mohammad Shafia got it all twisted as related to things. And his second wife, Tuba, basically wanted to participate in this murder as related to, again, following this man as a helpmeet in helping to take the life of this first wife again, because she was his competition. And the son participated in the murder because he basically wanted to follow the lead of his father in maintaining this so-called honor, not seeing the dishonor in participating in lies, not seeing the dishonor in participating in taking the life of your siblings that you supposedly love. No, this was all about maintaining that smooth world, and again, that world of having no conflicts or obstacles as related to just basic life things, because when it comes to basic life, yes, you're going to have women who, if things don't work out, they're going to want to leave. And if you have a daughter in your life, they are going to be rebellious. They're going to go through this phase of adolescence, because adolescence always tests boundaries, but it's how a father responds to those situations that shows how he's a man or a man in crisis. And when it comes to beta males, they don't really know how to respond to the situation. No, they react based on their feelings about how they feel about their world being disrupted, and not understanding that this child is just learning about the world, learning about this world of life. And again, if you take a girl from an Eastern culture and bring her to a Western culture, and she's an adolescent, she's going to, again, want to be a part of that culture, because natural thing for girls is fitting in, because they want to fit into a society, because that's all part of their natural hypergamy, because they want to be able to find the highest status man in that society where there are no arranged marriages. And when there's hypergamy, again, the woman is going to want to be with higher status men, and they want to be in a place where they can be treated very well. And again, this is why Mohammad Shafia's first wife wanted to leave, because she was basically, yes, she was with a millionaire, but she was in a position where she was not in a role where she could be the lead wife. And the daughters basically, again, not participating in their natural hypergamy, looking to go out here and get involved with high status men, not looking to have something arranged for them like they do in Eastern culture, where women are completely submitted to men. No, what they're looking to do is fit into a Western culture. And sadly, Mohammad Shafia didn't understand these things, because he grew up in a culture of religion. And as he got a culture shock in Western culture, he wound up becoming a man who became a man in crisis who basically wound up as a result of these honor killings that basically showed how dishonorable he was he found out that he wound up getting convicted as related to this crime with his wife, and both of them will wind up doing 25 years to life in prison before they are deported to Afghanistan. So what happened to Mohammad Shafia is he went from being a man who had struggled in the beginning of his life to becoming a millionaire, and instead of him receiving the benefits of citizenship in Canada, he is now an inmate in that system for the next 25 years, and instead of him being a citizen of Canada like he originally planned, he's now in the penitentiary with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and his wife is in there with Betty, Lulu, Rhoda, and Big Bertha. And again, on their road, instead of being on the road to citizenship, they were both on the road to, again, having the rest of their lives in that prison where they may possibly die and possibly be sent back to Afghanistan. Again, instead of this man enjoying the benefits of Western society, he wound up being in the penal system because he wanted to have his smooth world, but that smooth world became a lot rougher for Mohammad Shafia, who became a historical man in crisis, who went out in ignominy, and went out in an ignominious fashion because he wanted to maintain the traditions of the old country in a new country, not understanding that when you enter a new culture, everything changes. But sadly, instead of everything changing for the better for Mohammad Shafia, everything wound up changing for the worse. And instead of him being a free man in Canada who could have been a Canadian citizen, he is now a part of the penal system of Canada as a man in crisis. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers who wanted me to do a historical man in crisis episode on Mohammad Shafia. And if you want me to do a historical man in crisis video on someone, and I know something about that person, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the Cash App or the PayPal by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn how men like this wind up on a road to participating in these types of behaviors where they believe they have to go out here and destroy other people's lives to make their world smooth, and why this behavior is dysfunctional, and how to identify it and be able to deal with individuals like this, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.